really wanted to quit my job. I wanted to parent my children, especially because one of my daughters was having grand mal seizures. This was sort of at the end of my career with NCR. She was starting to have seizures all the time. And part of that is she's a trauma survivor. And, you know, as I mentioned, so every time I would step foot on an airplane and get halfway across the country, or in some cases international travel, I would get information that she was seizing at home with my husband or with my mom, or something was happening. And I was panicking because I just wanted to be there for my kids. I wanted to be there when they had special days. I loved what I did, but the company was asking for my soul, literally. And they would understand to a point, as corporate America tries to do, but at the end of the day, it is a bottom line business. It is profit, it is GP, it is not what we do here, guys. It is not, it's different. And I had grown up in corporate America. It had been 20 years of this. And so I remember distinctly just being at my wit's end, and I was seeing a friend who was dying of cancer. Her name was Sonia. She had 3 children, and I brought her a meal, and I was sitting across the table from her, and she had her little, you know, cap on. She had lost all her hair. She was getting ready to start hospice, and she's my age, and 3 beautiful children. And I was telling her that there's no way that I could leave. I felt trapped, but I knew that God was calling me out. That every time I got on a plane, she was having a seizure. It was almost like a sign. I'm like, this is just like God saying, no, I need to get out of here, and I need to do the things that I want to do and that I'm being called to do, and I need to prioritize my health. And so she was listening to me, and most of what I was telling her was a math problem. I was telling her, you know, I'll be vulnerable. I was making almost $300,000 a year. At that time, I could not figure out how on earth we were going to go down, you know, that much. And mathematically, I had done it on paper a bunch of times and it just didn't work. It was like I was trapped, and I had to keep doing that, even though I needed to be a mother and be at home. So my husband, great man of faith, was like, if it's God's will, it's God's bill. So if you need to get out of there, you need to get out of there. Your health is important. You need to regroup, and you can quit. You can resign. He always was like, you can resign. He totally supported me. I just didn't have the faith to do it, and I was scared. So as I'm talking with Sonia and she's looking at me, she takes off her scarf and she looks at me and she said, everything that you have talked to me about is going to burn. Everything. So, you know, I was sharing with her, we have a home, we have a second home in Huntington Beach. We have all that, like we have a boat. She's like, sell everything, get rid of everything, and be a mom and regroup and discover your passion and figure out what God wants you to do. You're 40 years old. She's like, look at me, Rachel. I'm leaving 3 kids behind. Go be with your family. And that was the beginning of the dream of, okay, by this time I had started to heal myself with nutrition. I had started to understand the path of autoimmunity, and I had gone down this path and understood that I had celiac and I had Hashimoto's and I had all these things. My body was just a mess, and I was healing myself through nutrition, and I was detoxifying my body, and I was keeping journals and food and mood journals and all that. Well, that's where my wellness business came from. It came from needing to heal me. And as I healed myself, I had this great calling that God put on my heart. And it was, you need to pay this forward. Like, just imagine how many women are bogged down. My hair was falling out. I was gaining weight, losing weight. I was taking naps during the day. I mean, once I quit, I got to really look at like, gosh, I have been so sick for so long. And it was all centered around food, you know, that was really causing it. I couldn't believe it when early on when I was being diagnosed, you know, I would tell my husband, I'm dying. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm dying. And he was like, you're going to be okay. And we would do the scans, and every time they would say, you're fine. You know, you don't have MS, you don't have this. So later on, I figure out the autoimmunity and I start going down that path. And that's how our wellness practice was actually born. The protocols that I was using, the tools that I was using to feel okay, to restore my vitality, to bring life back into my body, and into my mind, and healing myself from being, you know, corporate, and understanding what all that means. You know, I know Jamil talks about it a lot, but, you know, in that industry, I was like an icon of, oh, Rachel Richards, she's going to do this, she's going to speak. And, you know, you think you're so important, ego. And when you leave, man, it's like chop, chop, move on. It's pretty incredible that I was willing to sell my soul for a company that was just, yeah, they loved me when I was there, but man, when I was gone, things just move on. And you're not as missed as you think you are. And so you sit back and you go, man, how much have I missed? You know, I don't want to start talking about what I've missed because it will get messy. It will get real messy. So I'm just going to say that I gave up the great for the good for a long time. And I don't choose to dwell on that because what I have now, you know, but there had to be a path and an awakening. And gosh, I was cued by my friend. I was cued by Andrew's death. I was cued by my daughter's epilepsy. The cueing was taking place. It was a matter of, was I going to listen and trust that within me, and what I was building other people's dreams. I was spending the best years of my life building other people's dreams. This book, that it's so torn up and beat up, they made it into a hard copy. But this book was a labor of love, creating a sales methodology, writing it out. This is still their world-class methodology today. They own this. So I was writing for other people. All my gifts and talents were being used to perpetuate other people's dreams. And my family was suffering. And so this awakening is a huge part of my story. And I didn't even realize it until last night when I started writing it out. I'm like, whoa, you know, it's pretty emotional. But one thing that is in this book, and it'll segue us to this next part, this is a quote that I used to say a lot. A sale is not something that you pursue. It's what happens to you when you're immersed in serving your customer. Remember, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. So we're going to talk about that today, but let me talk to you quickly. I've got about 3 minutes to bring in Optavia and how I got that in my hands and where this gift came from. So here I am in a wellness practice, plugging away. Right away, God added to it. It was like, it was confirmation, you know, I mean, partnership after partnership, favor after favor. It took off quickly. I started blogging. I started teaching corporate wellness. I started using my story to heal other women with autoimmunity. I was given many, many opportunities that are just unheard of early on as a wellness coach, and studying integrated nutrition and molecular hydration. I just couldn't get enough knowledge. I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing with the rest of my life, was being a mom and doing wellness. I knew that that was my call. So things were going really well. And there's a fireman that works with my husband. And I was watching his Instagram, and we would comment on each other's things and kind of see. And I knew he was doing fitness because he was always posting pictures of, like, you know, before and afters and six packs and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive, you know? So it's interesting because at the time in which we kind of connected, he reached out and was like, hey, Rach, I know you have a wellness practice. You know, I want to talk to you about a tool that I think would be great for you in your wellness practice. And so he had been sharing some things. Well, when we got on the phone, you know, keep in mind, I had been hit up by a lot of people that were like, take my pink drink and put it in your practice, and take this and take that. Well, I was a real raw food. I worked for local farmers. We taught people how to eat local, organic, seasonal, whole, real raw foods, just like, you know, food-based supplements. I mean, it was all very natural, and I was doing a lot of like paleo coaching and just, you know, all that good stuff. So when he contacted me, I was doing autoimmune eating plans basically for my clients, for the most part. Sugar busters, sugar detoxes, all that. Gut health protocols, you know, the whole granola crunchy thing. And so when he called me and talked to me, we talked a little bit about Optavia, and right away I shut him down. I was like, there is no way that I'm going to do anything with packaged food, number one. Network marketing, anything like that. No. You know, ego, just like Lego my ego. It was crazy. And I just knew that was not for me. You know, poor guy didn't get to say much because I just came out with like, oh my gosh, thank you for thinking of me, but this is not going to happen because I would never do anything like that in my practice. Like, this needs to be all organic and homemade and, you know, needed to be all Rachel, really was the truth. And I knew everything, right? So I did integrated nutrition. It's like, why would I do that? Well, let me just tell you, he asked me a question at the end of the call. I was very nice to him. I love him. He's a brother in the department, and he's a dear friend. And so I wasn't rude, but I was like, no, that would never work. But at the end of the call, he asked me this question. He said, okay, well, can I ask you a question? Sure. How many of your clients, Rachel, are at a healthy BMI, do you think? Knowing that excessive weight is inflammation, and truly inflammation, and so on and so forth. So I don't know how long and awkward the pause was on the phone at that point, but it was there. And I was like, you know, kind of like Angela Johnson, like, I'm gonna have to call you back, because he called me out in terms of like, great what you're doing, but you know, and I know that being at a healthy weight is a huge marker of health and inflammation and so on and so forth. And you can continue to supplement things and do things with that said client. But really, if they're carrying around 30 pounds of visceral fat because they're eating clean and they're not able to deal with insulin resistance and, you know, things like that that lead to metabolic syndrome, like, we had this good talk. And so when I hung up, I was really stirred, you guys. I was really stirred. And I'm like, okay. And what started to happen at that time was I started to realize that I might be missing something, and that I was killing myself trying to do all these meal plans and meal prep. And my clients were killing themselves, and they wouldn't do it, and they would fail. And they would take their probiotic for like 3 days, and then they would forget, and they wouldn't do the snacks, and, you know, so on. So Optavia turned out to be the most tremendous blessing that I could ever not have imagined, right? So that was me. So I say that because we're going to switch gears into some practical stuff here in a minute, but I say that because how many people do you write off? Like, oh, he's a fireman. He doesn't need to do this because he makes great money. He would never want a health coach. Or, ooh, she's like an integrated nutrition person. She's not going to want to do this. Or this person's not going to want to do this. Well, hopefully, through just that sharing, you know that you should continue to not profile people, and you should trust the gift that we have and know that it has legs for a lot of people, for everybody. So hopefully that has given you some encouragement. Put a 1 in the chat if you have already like made those things in your mind where you've X'd off certain people because you're like, it won't make sense for them. It won't make sense for them. Aren't you guys glad that Tom didn't do that about me? Because I can't imagine my life without this tool. So it's just amazing to me. So with that, I jump in, I start adding clients. We didn't really get to work until about 9 months later. Yes, we were saying yes to the business, but we were saying no with all of our actions, not doing the systems, not integrating our clients, not following a scalable process that Optavia offered. I knew better. I didn't need the mentors. You know, it's like I had my little practice. I was going to use Optavia like I wanted to. And wow, ego, huge. So don't do that. Learn from that. I wasted a lot of time, but it was a valuable lesson. So I'm going to share it with you so you don't have to waste time. So we went all in after Go Global. My husband started seeing what was happening with me, and he joined. So he's a paramedic fireman who was doing health assessments in between 911 calls and is having the most fun that I have ever seen him have. He came back to life. What it did for him was it gave him the ability to feel like he's not just responding to poor health all day. Now he's jumped the fence and he feels like he's actually helping people with their health. He's actually doing something to stop the 911 calls that wake him up all night, and that he's actually empowering people to do something about their health. So it's beautiful because they can get firemen can get a little crusty and hardened due to just the constant poor health and watching people do things to themselves, you know, really through these anti-health habits. And so much like Dr. A talks about, it's like Tim had that same crustiness that was starting to get him. And so this has just been a breath of fresh air for us both. And I want to tell you our why. When we came back, okay, my why when I started with in the very beginning was, oh my gosh, this is going to save me so much time on meal prepping and protocols with my clients. Now, you may think, here's some stinking thinking. You may think, well, no wonder she took off quickly or whatever, is because she already had a following and she already had a wellness practice. So like she was lucky. And so I'm not like her. And wrong. No. Because my clients, literally, you want to know what my accusations were, was like, oh, remember Rachel? She was like that granola crunchy health and wellness coach. Yeah, she sold out. She's doing packaged food, you know? So my clients were confused about why I was asking them to do something that involved eating things that were prepackaged and whatnot. And I could do a whole separate training on how much confidence you should have in our protocol, especially coming from a nutrition background and knowing the good that it does. We won't talk about that today, but let me just tell you, everyone needs our portion control meal replacements, and they need them in some aspect of their life. So take full confidence that they're safe and effective. So when we got back from Go Global, we went all in. We decided to get out of our own way, start using our business mentor team, start attending the calls, start going to the events, start going to the training, and plug in. We were unplugged, not integrated, isolating, and not using our gift to its full potential, not at all. So that decision was like, that's it. And our new why, so remember the first why was easy protocol. The new why was we wanted to bring my husband home. He was working a ton of overtime. And we have a 14-year-old son that's still at home, and he needed his dad. And there were lots of things showing that he needed his dad, and that being at home with mom all the time was not good. So we started to really see this, and he wanted to cut down his overtime and be at home more. So our goal, firemen work 10 days a month. That's what they're scheduled. He was working 6 to 8 overtimes, which is being gone 18 days out of 30, putting him home 12 days a month, guys, to do everything. And that was stressful on me. And so it was my desire that he would get to be home and just work 10 days a month. So, sorry, I have some alarms on to keep me on track. So that was our why. We are very, very close to being in a place where he can just work his scheduled 10 days a month and be here. So that's all the Optavia story, kind of how we got into it, how we got this wonderful gift. And now I want to switch gears and talk about how we integrate our clients and how we support our clients so that we can have a good, strong, referral-based, natural coaching pool of clients that are net promoters. And so I want to switch gears and get into that for the next 20, 25 minutes so that you guys have some really practical ways that you can do this. So the first thing that I want to share with you is client support. You've heard this before. Client support starts at the health assessment. Okay, that sets the tone for everything. It really, really does. So the health assessment information that Annika shared yesterday, so valuable. If you missed that call, go watch it. I mean, if you missed any of the March Madness calls, go watch it. The first part, mindset. Now we're getting into skill set. Then we're getting into action and understanding that this business has four components that you're like, okay, I'm a health coach and I'm on fire. But if you were to work for corporate America and they were to say, you have 4 quadrants that you need to have skill set in: client acquisition, client support, coach acquisition, coach support. So as you are developing yourself and you have mindset issues with each one of those boxes that need to be undone, so you can unpack the skill set inside of each one of those boxes. And so today we're talking about client support, quadrant number 2, right? We're not talking about acquisition. So you have an acquired client. It starts at the assessment. Understand that some people that contact us, maybe they saw a post or whatever, understand that some of them are getting ready to get ready. So I am very strict on not signing up clients that are not level 10 ready. I trust that those clients that are not ready will come back. I educate them. I love on them during the health assessment. I awaken them, and I am perfectly okay with not signing them up. Perfectly. Because there are just some will, some won't, someone's waiting, right? And the someone's waiting, we've got, a third of our country that is obese, and health is poor. We are one of the sickest countries that exist. So am I worried that I need to sign this client up and I got to get another order? And, no, you take care of the clients. The numbers take care of themselves. And that is so important that you understand that from my perspective, why we're by referral, why we have, for every 1 client we typically get 3 referrals. I'm very strict about starting out with someone who's ready. Now, if they lack some areas of confidence or willpower or any of those things, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting permission and setting a vision up front. And if they're not aligned with that vision, then we usually don't move forward. I say something like, so this has been a great call. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everything that you have shared with me and trusted me with in terms of information. So I can't thank you enough for that. I hope that I've imparted some ideas on, you know, things that habits that may be something that you want to work on. But when I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready you are to be coached, and to really be coachable, and to trust me sort of blindly, right? For the next however long, I mean, the minimum 60 days, 90 days, I need blind trust. And if they come back and they say, about a 6, I don't move forward. I let them know that a 6 is going to be painful for them and for me. And that I am here and I will pour in and work my tail off and show them the way when they're closer to a 10. So personally, I sign up people that are at a 9 or a 10. When they're at a 9 or a 10, they allow me to integrate them. They read the book, they do the homework, they attend the calls, they participate in the community. They're so hungry for what we have. They're desperate. They're tired of being tired. They're tired of doing it their way. They've laid down that will of like, I'm going to do this my way, because they realize they can't and that it's not working. So I'm pretty strict about that. I don't shove clients. I won't push them if I hear things that are going to impede the mission. Okay. And I'm looking for lifelong transformation. So I just had someone text me, hey, I'm a friend of so-and-so. I'm getting ready to go to Vegas for a girls' weekend. I want to lose 10 pounds. Can you just give me your website so I can order some food? And through a series of doing what we do, we finally connected on the phone. And at the end of the day, it was kind of like, I'm not your girl. I'm not looking to help someone crash diet, you know? So there is that within us, within Tim and I and our business. We won't move forward with somebody that's not coachable, that isn't willing to be integrated. It's painful. And what it does is it leads to a brand hit. So, because then they go out and tell 22 people that they failed at their diet and it was bars and shakes and they didn't like the way they tasted, or, you know, whatever. And so now we have the brand hit, and it's just too much work and energy, and it takes us away from growing our business. So that's been a philosophy that we've had from the beginning, and staying true to that has resulted in, you know, being in the top 5 for frontline volume month after month after month. And I believe in what we're doing. I believe that that's the way to go. I don't believe that we should ever shove a client that isn't ready and then try and integrate them and things of that nature. What's beautiful about that is the integrity. So I went back last night and was looking, and so many of our 6s came back as 10s like a month later, or 2 months later, or a year later. I can't create the time in which they awaken and are truly ready to be coached. I have no control over that. But they came back, and they come back because they see like, oh, she was really about health and wellness. Like, she wasn't just trying to shove an order. So the trust when they come back, it's high. It's way high, because they saw that I was willing to walk away if they weren't ready. Okay, so that's just something that I impart. So we started the health assessment. They need to be ready to go. You guys can each decide, you know, what that sounds like to you. I was just sharing with you what we do. And then I get permission. So after the health assessment is done, I cast a vision. So get good at casting visions. The vision that I cast is lifelong transformation. It's the same one that we're taught by Optavia. We're going to get you to a healthy weight. We're not going to leave you there. We're going to transition you. And in transition, you're going to have more goals that you reach, more vitality that you pursue. You're going to feel better and better and better at each phase of what we do. Right now, I'm just going to coach you on induction. I'm just going to get you to a healthy weight. And I'm only going to give you information that is pertinent to that part of the mission. And then when we get there, I'm going to pour into you for the next phase and awaken you to even more that you can do with your body and with your mind. And so at the end of the day, it's casting that vision. And then I also will share with them maintenance, and the fact that in maintenance, this is a lifestyle, and you're going to be able to walk into a buffet and know how to make meals that serve you, and you're going to know how to vacation and stay on plan and still have true moderation. How good will it feel to hold these results and have true moderation, not the Western culture's idea of moderation with frappuccinos with caramel drizzling down the side and whipped cream coming out of the straw, but like, you're going to understand everything because you're going to have read the book. You're going to have the knowledge for the rest of your life. How exciting is that? So I'm going to be with you. I'm going to walk with you from induction to transition to maintenance. And I'm not going anywhere. And the community is not going anywhere. And the science isn't going to fail. So this is so exciting that you're going to do all three phases. Like, set the vision from the beginning. Do not let them drive. You are the health professional in this situation. And some of you are just a couple feelings ahead of them, but you know program, right? You know it because you're doing it. And it's like, you know, I don't believe you have to have any kind of nutrition background or anything to do what we do. If anything, sometimes it can make it more messy. And that's a whole nother training too. But stick to the process, stick to the 5-in-1 and the guidebook and the stop, challenge, and choose, and all the tools that have already been created for you that I spent the better part of 5 years trying to create on my own, and they're done. Like, we just get to rest in that and use the process. So it's beautiful. So definitely set the vision. Understand that from the health assessment moving forward, what are we talking about? Trust deposits. So the client is looking for you to create these trust deposits because you're going to make withdrawals, okay? You're going to ask them to do stuff that they don't want to do. You're going to ask them to lay down things they don't want to lay down. So what does all that require? Trust. So understand that you're making trust deposits all the way through. I do believe firmly that we need to lead with our health. Part of client support is living it out, sharing it, living out loud, doing the things that we ask them to do, the water, the sleep, all of those things. So leading with your health is a huge part of client support. And I would encourage you that if you're struggling there, that would be a great opportunity to kill ego and get an accountability buddy. We do that for our business, you know, where I need an accountability buddy. We need someone that we hook up with after convention. Do it for your health. Reach out to another coach that you love and trust and say, I need to go back on the 5-in-1, or I need to do these things. I've gotten really sloppy with my health because I've just been working my financial side of my business, but I kind of let my health go, and I need an accountability buddy. Like, that goes a long way to help you to be able to lead from the front and share your struggles. Certainly, you don't have to be perfect, but I do think that that is a huge part of client support. So with that, we've kind of built this by referral business that is wonderful because we get a lot of referrals that come in from other clients. And so what I look at, and I've talked about this before, is when you look at your clients, if you had to put them in 3 buckets, if Optavia decided to call all of your clients tomorrow, they were like, we're going to conduct a survey, okay, because we're going to see how many of our clients love our brand. And they decided to just pick up the phone and start calling your clients. And if the only question they asked them was, how likely are you to refer this program to a friend or a family member? And however they answered on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 6, that's a detractor. They're not real happy. 7 and 8, that's a neutral. They could kind of take you or leave you. 9s and 10s are your net promoters. So when you start out with a client, start out with a vision of being world-class and having net promoters, having people that are trusting you and singing your praises to their friends, because that will help you to grow as well. And not that we would stop doing any of the 3x3x3 or 5x5 or whatever you have to grow your business, but to have a healthy referral-based business is also a wonderful way to accelerate your front line, to find your next coaches, all of that. So now how? What are some things practically? Well, many of you, I'm going to share a couple things quickly. Many of you know that we have a client checklist. So now after they are a client, we have a way that we start plugging them in. So think of the fact that they are like a little cord and they need to be plugged in, okay? So you don't want them to be unplugged doing program on their own, just eating the food. We always talk about the 4 components: the coaching, the community, the Dr. A habits of health, and then finally the food. So maybe ask yourself, gosh, if they called all my clients, how many of them would be integrated? How many of them would say good things? How many of them would refer me? And if that's causing you some anxiety to even think about it, then maybe go ahead and eat some humble pie and go back to those clients and revisit them and plug them into the areas that they're not plugged in on now. It's not too late to go back and connect with clients and make sure you get them on the right track. So we have a client support checklist. We do a lot of things once they become a client, right? We get them into Journey to Health or their client support page, whichever one you have already formed. We announce them, we plug them in, we make a big deal out of that. We put their picture in there. That creates some accountability, okay? We definitely want to do the texting, having them participate in the text messages. We want as many logs on the fire as we can get to kindle their fire until they get going. So we need them in the book. We need to assign homework at every time we interact with a client. Here's your homework this week. I want you to install a water app. You said you're still at 30 ounces. I want you to get a straw because that will help you drink that faster. So we're always looking when we check in. So I'm not going to go over the entire client checklist because we'll send this out again after the call. And this will give you an exact, like, ooh, how many of these things am I missing? I don't do night before calls. Uh-oh, right? I don't send the video. Uh-oh, I don't have them do their measurements the night before, their picture, their weigh-in. I've been kind of missing that. I don't do 7-day check-in calls with them, tip calls for their next week, setting the vision for the second week on program. I don't do those things. Maybe there's a couple things that you're missing, but they're all laid out here. So one of the things that we do is we follow this list and then we add to it. So this is sort of the minimum for client support, right? Because one of the things that we do is our community page. So when you're helping clients, every time you think about helping a client, this is something that's very practical that helped me to be more effective and manage my time. If I helped client A, right? Say that I have a mechanical learner client. Do you guys know that mechanical learners, people that come from a mechanical mindset, they like to break things to put them back together to see how they work. So some of you may start to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have a client like that. She's always sort of pulling my plan apart, questioning everything. And I think she's not bought in, but she keeps going. But she's always challenging me on why can't we have fruit? And why can't we do this? And why can't we do that? So my mechanical learners started to frustrate me until I remembered, hey, they break things and put them back together. That's the way they learn. So I want to have in my community page where ours for our clients that we have is called Nourished. So in Nourished, I want to start having go lives that talk about that so that I'm not helping this one client with her issue of being a mechanical learner and trying to break the program and put it back together, but that I'm appealing to other people in the group that have that same issue. So I do go lives where it's like, I want to have scale to the client support that I offer. So ask yourself, do I do a lot of one-offs that I could have scale? Examples of that, you might want to write these down. We do, in our community page, we do a motivational Monday. We do a transformation Tuesday within that group. We do a what's for dinner Wednesday. What's everybody eating? Let's see your lean and greens, or a recipe. We do a throwback Thursday. We do a family fun meal thing or healthy habit for the family Friday. We do a sleepy Saturday. Why is sleep important? It's a sleep health tip. Water Wednesdays. So we're always taking pieces of the book and of the science and trying to push them out and remind clients, this is why you're drinking the water. This is why you're getting that extra hour of sleep. So instead of trying to help 1 or 2 clients, I'm always looking at, how does this have scale? How can I give this client support tool more reach? And so we know there's no substitution for them reading the book. One of the things on your checklist that I'm going to go over is never leave the book out of the equation. Don't be tempted to do that. Just everybody gets the book. Otherwise, you personally will be their book. And you can't afford to be their book and grow your business. With family, I found early in our practice, we were, oh, family doesn't need the book. Or, oh, family doesn't need to do a night before call. Family doesn't need to do the, whatever, because they're family. That is a huge mistake, because they need the full experience of what we do. So remember that client support becomes your training ground for your coaches. So if they never saw it, how are they going to do it, right? If they never saw it, how are they going to replicate it? So it's tempting when we get busy to skip steps and go, oh, they'll get it, or they'll see that on this thing. But don't skip any steps in your business. Follow the client support process 100%. The one thing that we have been doing with clients is just a lot of active listening and making sure that they're having fun. So one of the things that I've been asking of my team and of myself is, how good are we at hearing the diet mentality when we check in with clients? So when you're checking in, you cannot afford to be mechanical. You can't do the, okay, it's the weekly check-in call. What's your weight and your inches? Okay, great. Well, great. I'll talk to you next week. No, you have them on the phone. Ask maybe 1 or 2 questions. Like, hey, when you just said, I can't wait to get back to real food and just get through this, what did you mean by that? Because we're eating real food and we're going to continue to eat more real food. So what kind of real food are you missing? What kind of real food do you think you can't have right now? And so last week a client was like, well, tacos or pizza. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you think you can't have tacos? Like, let's fix that. When we hang up, I'm not going to send him a taco recipe. Instead, I'm going to say, you go check Nourished when we hang up, and you're going to see a taco recipe. Why? Because I need all 300 members of that group to know that we can have tacos. If I'm going to feed it to him, I'm going to feed it to everybody. So just get in the habit of scaling everything you do. If you're like, this is the 3rd time this week I have been asked, when can I go back to real food? When can I have fruit? That's the 3rd time I've been asked on my check-ins. So I'm going to do a go live within my little community page, and I'm going to revisit why we don't eat fruit in phase 1. And I'm going to refer to the book, and then I'm going to take a picture of the book in that, and I'm going to put that out on my group page, and I'm going to, tag people in it or whatever. Like, definitely the active listening where you're going, okay, wait a second. I can hear that D word creeping up, and they think this is a stinking diet. I'm in trouble with my client because the diet mentality is back. It was here at the beginning of plan. It took off for a while, and it's back. I could hear it. So don't be mechanical or, stale in your interactions with your clients. Definitely ask them things. When you hear them say, well, I just can't wait to get this weight off because this is getting expensive, man. Don't just go, yeah, well, remember it's, $14 a day and you get all this stuff. And like, basically you're saying you're wrong. And I hear you, but I don't hear you. And I'm just going to do my next check-in because that's all I need to do is just check in. That's what I'm doing today. It's, follow up this day or whatever. Don't do that. Take a minute and go, okay, wait a second. Let's kind of go back. Your health assessment, you were spending about 25 bucks a day on anti-health foods. We got rid of that, so we're back down. We've got some money there. But how can I help you? Because I'm sensitive to what you just said. Would it help you if I sent you a couple of recipes that are like real affordable lean and greens under 10 bucks? Would that help you? Would that help your family? Because I want to help you. I heard you. And so we do that a lot in our group, where we're like, everybody post a lean and green that's under 10 bucks. And then I'll throw like a prize in the mail for the person that responded the first one or whatever. And it's just a couple of purposeful hydration sticks and a thank you card. Thanks for keeping the community aspect alive. Everybody matters. You know, we all have to do our part. I appreciate your participation. Here's a couple of hydration, sticks and a thank you. And that goes a long way. Handwritten thank you cards, emails. So this week, we did a little email campaign to the clients, just showing them cauliflower pizza and what they can order from Starbucks. If they go to Starbucks, they can still have, certain drinks on the 5-in-1. So it's just layering your client support. Doing those things, like a lot of times we hear this stuff and we're like, oh, that will take a lot of time. Not if you schedule it. So for instance, the Water Wednesdays, let's just take that for an example. I go into my community page, I post 17 Water Wednesdays, schedule them all. I'm doing this on Sundays. They're all scheduled. They're going to post without me. So I don't need to be on social media all the time to have an effective business. I'm playing with my grandson, Maddox, and things are posting on my behalf. So it's all about being purposeful in your time management. Have a rock in your schedule that says scaling client support. I'm going to do an email campaign. I'm going to do handwritten thank you cards. I'm going to schedule my postings so that they're all done for the month. I'm going to take an hour and go to my local coffee shop, and I'm just going to put them all out there. They're done. I'm not going to fail at that anymore because I'm applying structure and tension to the things that are failing in my business, where I don't feel like I'm giving enough or doing enough. So let me just look over my notes. Community events, hikes, coffee hours, all those things. You guys know that a lot of people do that. That is so important. Just what about client appreciation days? Just saying, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I just called to tell you I appreciate you. I mean, that's it. Or just putting a post in your group that says, thank you for your trust. I know that you had a lot of choices when it came to getting healthy, and you chose this program and you chose me, and I thank you for that. Maybe just client appreciation days. Do you have any of those on your calendar? Do you have any way that you show appreciation for your clients and their longevity? So making sure that you're listening for their goals as they change, because they change. So we can't just say, well, your initial goal was this. It's like every time you check in, what goal do you have that you didn't have before? What are you starting to see that's possible that you didn't believe was possible that I can help you with? How can I add more value to my coaching? And then at the end of the call, ask that really tough question. Is there anything I could be doing better as your health coach? Do we ever ask that? Or are we always asking them what they can do better? What about if we just say, you know what, I'm not perfect and I want to get better. You're getting better, I want to get better. So is there anything that I could be doing better as a health coach? Because my personal growth is important and your trust is everything. So be more vulnerable so that they can see that. I used to tell my team, I'm going to end on this. There's so much, but I hope that I gave you guys practical things. Like a couple things, if you get frustrated and you're like, oh my gosh, I've just had 2 client calls that were terrible back to back, call a net promoter, call one of your raving fans, call one of the people that thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread and talk to them for 20 minutes. Put the wind back in your sails. Go to events, fill up your cup because you're pouring out, and you can't give what you don't have. So these calls and things, make sure that you have a way of filling up. When I used to have a lot of tough calls with clients, I would call one of the clients that loved us and they would remind me that we do good things. And so sometimes it's as easy as that. If you have a tough coaching day and you're like, man, I have been hit today. This guy quit, this girl's upset, you know, call some of your raving fans, talk to them, reconnect with the good stuff that we're doing, call your mentors. Don't throw too much at them too soon. Remember, guys, 3 phases of program: induction, transition, and maintenance. They can only handle what they can handle. Don't talk about transition stuff. If they do, you bring them back. I had a client doing this yesterday. Well, what about this? And what about this? And what about that? And I go, you know what? The future is not where we're going to be right now. We're going to set goals there, but we're going to act in the now. And right now, you're in fat burn. And all we need to know is the science for fat burn and the tools for fat burn and the things to avoid that will break fat burn and the habits that support fat burn. And as soon as you get to a healthy weight, I'm going to come alongside you and we're going to unpack transition. But we're not going to talk about transition right now. It will only confuse you and cause anxiety. Okay, so let's just stay in the phase of the program that we belong, and let me mentor and coach you in those phases, keeping everything clean. Anxiety is in the future. We don't want to touch that. So lastly, I'm going to close on this. In order to be world class, so we had a workshop at NCR one time, and we were all in a room, and everybody was putting world class on everything. Like, we're going to be a world class this and a world class that. So here I am. All those guys have MBAs. You know, I don't even have an associate's degree, you guys. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, what does world class mean anyway? Like, we're using this term, you know, but what does it mean? Don't we have to back it up? Don't we have to do something that's world class if we're going to put world class on the paper and say that we're the greatest thing? And everybody's kind of looking at me, and I'm like, no, what are we going to do that's different than everybody else so that we can actually say that we're world class and mean it? And so we were going through all these things. Long story short, what we ended up doing was we ended up covering wear items on our terminal, which was unheard of in our industry. Nobody covered wear items. They only covered functional failures. So a wear item is something that wears out. Like, why would anybody cover that on a warranty? We did the math. We looked at the projections. We decided to be world class and back it up with something that we did that nobody else did. So today, when you go out and you do your health coaching, are you world class? Are you doing things that no one else is doing? And not that we want to foster this. Hear me when I say you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Many of you just need to get the client support checklist today, go over it, find where you've been falling short, and fix it. And go, that's it. I'm just going to start here. I'm going to get everybody the book. I'm going to do this. It's going to be fundamentals for some of you where you're like, uh-oh. Others, you're going to be like, ooh, I like that idea of the check engine light. This is something I use with my clients when I send them this, and they're just little checkpoints, like, you know, things like that. So I do these little extras. They coincide with the program. They don't contradict it. They're definitely just cool little text messages that have little checker flags, like, are you checking your engine light? Is anything coming on before I talk to you on Saturday? Here's some things you can get ready to check to stay in strong fat burn. We do the stuff that's world class because we want each client to go out and be responsible for massive positive word of mouth. And I don't want to have to work hard. I would rather love on an existing client and let them help me with client acquisition too. So I loved talking to all of you today. I hope that each one of you, if you need help, make sure that you're reading in Dr. A's book on transitioning. So if you're weak in transition or maintenance, identify what area of coaching am I weak in? Am I weak in the induction part? No, I'm pretty good there. Do I really lack knowledge on transition, or am I lacking knowledge on maintenance? Like, I'm really scared of maintenance because I don't get there often. Why don't I get there often? Because my clients quit at induction. What does that say? That says that I'm not casting a vision. I'm not providing tools to get them a lifelong transformation. I could be only providing tools for induction, which is just a small part of our plan. So God bless all of you guys. I hope you have an amazing day. Be world class, and just keep on these calls because this is the stuff you need. We all need it. We all need it. I've loved it, and I appreciate being asked to share today.